You should learn to not be a dick to children!
Who cares?
Get off of Omegle and go think, why am I harassing children on the internet?
Who?
Why do I think it's okay to harass teenager? You!
Cares?
Life's too short to exercise. I'm just gonna be honest. There's so many better things to do than exercise. We have finite time on this earth. The exercise is such a conspiracy.
Most of the time we knew the start and end point. So on the way back, I started seeing people getting happy and shit because the end was near. But there were some asshole instructors that would hear the happiness and go right on past the end point. When that happened, everybody stopped talking. Heads would stop dropping. And I started taking fucking souls. At that time, I knew what happened in their minds. They were living off the hope factor.
All right, and we'll let that full video play whenever the podcast is over. But without further ado, you know what the fuck to do. Hit that like button, you Boston baked bean, bitch. So you already know what it is. This is episode number 24. Shout out to Kobe Bryant. We're going to be reacting to Academic speaking on Tory Lanez getting stabbed 14 times in the pen, man. You know, he was getting ready to drop his new album. He was dropping a new genre too, and boom. And then also we're going to react to the feds ripping P. Diddy as a criminal in the first day of the trial. And all this is allegedly, nothing's been proven. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the mic over to Kane. Let him say what he's got to say. Let Sneeko sing. And then we're going to get to the content.
You already know what it is, man. We are back here to serve some more game on the ground for them hungry hounds. So just get up the pound and are ready for the next round. So with that being said, make sure to grab your snacks, your drinks, your weed, whatever the fuck the case may be, because we finna jump right into this episode.
And yeah, I see all the lights, and damn, she fine. She want all the time, want all my time. Goodbye, and goodbye. And damn.
The funny part about that is when you've never been in the studio before, you don't hear how you sound. So he probably thought he sounded like the weekend, nigga, but he really sounded like the weekday. She said she want all the light. It's like that one day when you were like, I can't seem to control my thoughts as they bleed through my mind. It's as if I way left, right, left. We was in the back laughing. This boy can't turn around and say, shut the fuck up. But with that being said, he's not amused. He's fighting back a smile right now. Like, ha ha, look at this stupid boy. Look at this stupid boy. So with that being said, man, we're going to go ahead and react to this video. Shout out to Academics, man, for the content. I know y'all probably mad. See, a lot of y'all thought this nigga's career was going to be over. He made a goofy-ass mistake. But did he do anything that he ain't supposed to? No, he said something he ain't supposed to. But guess what? The nigga realized, don't ever say no shit like that again, and moved on. Y'all like to act like, oh man, he said this. He said shit we hear in Call of Duty lobbies all the time. Lock him up. Like y'all niggas don't be saying stupid shit. Was it retarded? Yes. 100% of the shit Zerka says is retarded. But you can't lock someone up for what they say. It's what they do. So with that being said, let's go. Well, at least on the internet.
I see people spam on kick that Tory Lanez got stabbed. No. Wow. Okay. Let's deviate from that case for 1 second to handle this just because it's important. I'm not going to do this much often because I want to really lock in on his Diddy case. But apparently, Tory's been stabbed in jail. So this isn't how Tory wanted to get out of prison, but he is. After suffering a prison yard stabbing so bad he needs hospital treatment, he was apparently on the yard in the California Correctional Institution at Tehachapi on Monday when another inmate stabbed him, according to sources, including one law enforcement. It's unclear what the motivation of the attack was, but one source tells us that Tory was rushed by an ambulance to a nearby civilian hospital in Bakersfield. Just by last week, Tory posted a picture of himself looking pretty buff behind bars and bragging his next album will be dropping soon. Where's that picture? Let me see if I can find the picture. Sorry. Tory Lanez. Oh my God, they trying to stab up the boy, huh? Oh my God, Tory been looking a little bit big right here. Pause. Right? Yeah. Okay. So it says the artist serving a 10-year sentence at a California state prison for the 2020 stabbing of Meg Thee Stallion. Oh, not stabbing, shoot, I'm sorry. Of Meg Thee Stallion. Tory and Meg are battling each other in court. They're still battling each other in court. She's accusing him of enlisting various bloggers to continue to public smear and cyber stalk her. And we're told that Tory's stabbing injury is non-life threatening. I'm gonna hit Tory's people to see if I can get an update. I don't like putting people I don't like putting people like on the spot like this because I could call him. But I'm asking his team if we have a status update on him. I want to send my prayers to Tory. Tory is obviously, again, no matter how easy or how, he always seems happy when I speak to him. Tory is incarcerated. And yeah, like it's not all roses. Yeah, he's made an album. He still pops his shit. He's always been a very jovial, very proud, very resilient individual, but he's in jail at the end of the day. And him being in jail, actually not jail, but prison, you know what comes with that. There's a lot of bullshit. It's not the nicest place. And of course, shit, if you got niggas on the street that want to test you, somebody in jail gonna want to test you and look like maybe he was stabbed. It's good to know it was non-life threatening. Non-life threatening, that's very important. But it is a little bit concerning if he was actually rushed to a hospital. That's not a medical facility within the jail, because it shows that if they need a civilian or outside of jail hospital to deal with his injuries, we got to be thinking at minimum, maybe several stitches, maybe some, it could be, you never know. I don't want to speak some of these things into existence, but if, they have a medical facility and a ward at most prisons, usually they could treat abrasions, certain lacerations. This seems like it might be serious. However, we're getting told it's non-life threatening. Okay. Keep touring your prayers. And as soon as I get an update, if I get an update this stream, I will let you guys know. Okay. His team did hit me. Okay. I think I'm safe to say this. Apparently, yeah. So they're confirming something happened. They're not giving me much details, but they did say at this point they haven't spoken with him. And that's also concerning as well. So, as soon as his team gets a handle on the situation, speaks to Tory, confirms what's what, and they relay that to me, I will surely let you know. But it appears that maybe his team at this point, that they're not all the way in the know of exactly what's going on. And I would imagine maybe Tory's at the hospital right now. He doesn't have the liberty to call his people, right? So we're going to send our prayers with him, and hopefully I can give you an update before the end of the stream. All right? Tory, we love you. Cool. Let's get back to the Diddy trial.
What you think about that, man?
I think it's crazy, and it goes to show that no matter how stomped down or tough you think you are, until you go to a real prison, like penitentiary, you're going to realize you really not all that. I'm not saying that Tory is weak, but just because you might have connections or whatever doesn't mean that they still can't figure out a way to reach your ass. They figured out a way how to reach Tory. They figured out a way how to get to Tory. And it's a shame to see. But, that comes with the territory of being in prison. He said that his team said that they were non-life-threatening injuries, but he had to go to an outside hospital, outside of the facility, which means that they are probably extensive injuries. Meaning that, if he was stabbed in the face, depending on where and how the stab wound punctured, he might need facial reconstruction surgery. Who knows? Or it could just be some deep stitches that he needs. But it's just crazy, bro. It goes to show you that just because, you're a celebrity or whatever, not everybody loves you. Especially not in prison with people who are spending the rest of their lives in there and have nothing else to lose. Because people who are serving life sentences in prison have nothing else to lose. They're not going anywhere. They can't get out. So they're just going to run rampant like chimpanzees and gorillas in a fucking zoo.
Yeah, man, it's just very unfortunate. And what I want to say is I bet it was a monkey, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to assume, because that's just bullshit. It could have been an essay or anything like that. But, man, this situation is fucked up. And, he has a father, he has a mother, just like everybody else does, man. And just imagine his mama finding out the day after Mother's Day her son got stabbed up, or his kids, because I know he got kids too. So that's fucked up, man. And That's why the youth needs to realize, man, prison isn't the place where you want to go. It don't matter if you're a celebrity. It don't matter what you claim to be. There's going to be somebody in there doing life, nigga, and they don't like you looking good and making music, and they don't like that shit. You're not doing anything directly to them, but you're stirring up their demons. All these people in cages have demons. So, I mean, that's what you got to understand, man. And unfortunately, you know, this had to be an example. You know, you much rather just be a story. Well, it is, but it ain't fiction. So prayers go for Tory Lanez. You know what I'm saying, man? At the end of the day. So, any last words on that, Kane?
No, that's 100% facts. And you know, you also got to be careful with the people that you fucking with too, because they could end up putting you in a situation where you go to prison on some false ass shit, like what happened to Tory Lanez. So you got.
It was over some pussy too.
Yeah, which is why you got to be careful that you don't. You can't be emotionally controlled by pussy, bro. You can't be emotionally controlled by anything, and that is 100% facts. Even though you didn't do it, it doesn't matter because they're gonna figure out a way how to pin it on you anyways. And that's an unfortunate part of being a man.
Square business, man. So with that being said, we're going to transition to our next topic. And this all credit goes to Law and Crime. We're going to be reacting to their video. Like I said, all this is allegedly, y'all. So make sure y'all remember that. No matter how you feel about Diddy, off what you saw on the internet, you don't know what happened. We're going to figure out what happened. But for now, everything's alleged. But, man, let's check it out, man, and we're going to get Kane's reaction.
For the opening statements, day one, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming out really quickly to talk about this. So first, I want you to set the stage. The whole scene out there, you had almost trouble getting into the courthouse today. Talk to us about what you're seeing.
Oh, yeah, I crashed out a little bit this morning, Jesse, thinking I was not about it to get inside that courtroom just because of just how crazy it is. I mean, you can just see the lines just going all the way back with media. It's going all the way back just with the public, just so some people can either, one, watch the trial, get a glimpse of Diddy's family members coming in and outside of the courtroom, and even as well as see his attorneys, whose members include Brian Steele, Mark Agnifilo, Mark Garagos playing in kind of that defensive advisory type of role. So it's crazy out here, especially, you know, it's Diddy, it's high profile celebrities, it's salacious allegations. Then on top of that, he's facing a lot of time behind bars. So you can understand why so many people of the public wanted to be here and wanted to get here super early so that way they could attend. I even heard somebody was standing in line and was auctioning off how much that they would give to somebody else in line for up to $500, $600. So that's just a lot of people here. Now, as far as who was inside the courtroom today, still is a lot of famous faces, or let me not say famous faces, but a lot of people that we are definitely familiar with here at Law and Crime. You have Mark Garagos in the courtroom, Karen Agnifilo, who is the wife of Mark Agnifilo, who's also representing Luigi as well too. You had Little Rod inside the courtroom today, and he's one who had filed one of the many civil claims against Diddy as well too. He came in probably, I would say, maybe a little like 8:30ish, kind of came in with the sunglasses, 2 chains on, as well as his attorney was inside that courtroom as well too. You have all of Diddy's children, with the exception of his youngest daughter, Love, were inside that courtroom. So that includes Quincy Brown, Justin Combs, Christian Combs, Delilah Combs, Chance Combs, Jesse Combs. Chance's mother was inside that courtroom. Diddy's mother was inside that courtroom. The daughter of Diddy's youngest daughter was inside that courtroom. And then you have the twins' caregiver, who is also best friends with Kim Porter as well too. So a lot of people were inside that courtroom as well for just opening statements, just to get this jury selected, because it went down from 43 to 18 today. And so a lot of people were inside that courtroom. It was body to body. And what can you expect? It's Diddy's first day of trial. So this was, you know, just a little bit of what we were expecting today, but it's crazy out here.
And I will encourage everybody to check out what you're posting on X, Twitter, because earlier today you actually posted that you saw Rodney Little Rod Jones, one of the first people to sue Sean Combs. He was outside the courthouse. We were always expecting who would end up showing up during the course of this trial. Talk to us about the jury. Who is this jury? What can you tell about how they're reacting so far to opening statements? I mean, NBC has reported you have one juror who's a 69-year-old male, another juror who's a 31-year-old male, another one 51-year-old male. You have a 42-year-old female, and they have different numbers to them. But what are you determining based on the jury? What's the makeup, and how are they positioning? How are they reacting to the opening statement so far?
Yeah, well, kind of a hard question to answer, I should say, just because of where I was sitting inside the gallery. It was really hard to kind of see each and every single one of their faces when both sides were presenting opening statements. But what I did see from being inside that gallery was some people jotting notes, some people just very much intently listening to both Emily Johnson for the prosecution as well as Tani Garagos for the defense. But as far as the makeup goes, I kind of just took their jury numbers and compared them to the notes that I took last week when I was here for jury selection. You have one who's a scientist, one whose brother is a security guard. He knew Diddy was arrested but didn't know the charges. You have one person who's part of a union job. He works for the Department of Corrections. Another person who is now retired but previously used to work at Verizon. You had another person whose friend is a detective, son is a security guard. But, you know, as far as the defense was kind of making their objections today as far as jury selection goes, and, you know, just kind of the objections they made that, you know, the government was striking 7 black jurors, that type of thing. There were still black jurors that are going to be serving on this panel who are going to be making these making the decisions going into those deliberations. So from what I saw of the jury makeup as a whole, it really was a diverse group of men and women of all different ages, all different walks of life as well too.
So we hear some commentary in the back right there. Obviously, I think there's going to be a lot of commentary when it comes to this case. But Elizabeth, you know, we counted up right now. I believe we, as we're looking into this, we're counting up how many men there are. I believe there's 8 men, 4 women on this jury, all different ages. None of them younger than 30 years old. Take that for what it is. A little bit of older individuals as well. But I think it's really interesting when you talk about what we saw today with opening statements, right? And by the way, just to reiterate something that you mentioned before, the first argument we heard from the defense today was saying that the prosecution, they raised what's called a Batson challenge to their preemptory challenges, saying you're striking jurors based on race, which is improper. The judge didn't side with it. They got a jury selected. Talk about opening statements. I want to start with the prosecution, Emily Johnson. What was the main theme of today? And did you learn something new? And Elizabeth, you're going to have to talk a little bit louder because that guy behind you is incredibly loud. So, so what was the theme of Emily Johnson's opening statement? And did you learn anything new? Anybody that might testify?
Yeah, so, you know, obviously we've been following this case from the beginning, from the time that Cassie had first dropped her civil lawsuits against Diddy. And so a lot of the stuff that we were listening to from Emily Johnson was expected, right? You know, she starts off with saying, this is Sean Combs. He's a cultural icon, a businessman. He's larger than life. But then she went and kind of talked about the defendant's crimes, the defendant being Diddy, that went past 20 years, you know, kidnapping, allegations of arson, allegations of drug trafficking, sex crimes, obstruction. You know, they were talking about one specific night where the defendant was on the hunt for girlfriend Cassie. So I was pretty surprised there that they just went out of the gates and already had just named her. I was assuming when she were going to be taking the stand, that's when the jurors would know her name, and that's when she would be introduced as, you know, alleged victim number 1. But the government came out and just automatically just named her. You know, they talked about the incident where Diddy found out Cassie was seeing another man, and that Diddy took his gun and his bodyguard, and Diddy threatened to allegedly kill this man that Cassie was with. You know, Emily Johnson talked about how he had beat Cassie so brutally that he also had to take control of her. He kept videos of Cassie sleeping with escorts and threatened to use them against her. These are the types of things we had already known and were already kind of painted out inside those indictments that the government had written up in that type of sort. You know, Diddy referring himself as a king, which is kind of ironic because he has a giant king crown on the back of his neck. You know, Emily Johnson spoke about the defendant using his inner circle to manipulate women that for a while he watched, how his bodyguards kind of played, or bodyguards as well as employees kind of played a role into this alleged RICO conspiracy as well too. You know, and she made it a point to say this case is not about a celebrity's private sex preferences, because that was something that the defense definitely kind of chalked it up to being just, you know, that he lived an alternative lifestyle, that type of sort. And we'll talk about that more in a second. You know, while there has been a lot of reports about victim 3 and where her whereabouts are or anything like that, the defense didn't talk about alleged victim number 3. Instead, they kept it pretty short and to the point. They talked about Cassie. They talked about Jane, who we presume to be the other alleged victim. In this case, the government was talking about, you know, the freak offs being also named Wild King nights, something that we had also known about, as well as even just simply as, you know, hotel nights as well too. Allegations of flying escorts across state lines, out of the country, into the country, that type of thing. That Diddy had demands to, for the staff to set up his rooms in advance, lighting, lube, cash for escorts, drugs for both Diddy and the women that were participating in these types of events. You know, women had to dress in lingerie, had to wear white nails, tall heels, something that Cassie had pointed out in her civil lawsuit that was later settled. You know, talking about the drug use. Then they went into kind of, you know, the allegations specifically geared towards Cassie and just how, you know, the defendant had met Cassie. They had a 17-year age difference. Cassie was initially given a 10-album deal, and obviously that never happened as far as putting out a whole bunch of different albums and that type of sort. You know, and so these were types of things that we had already known about. I think some of the more interesting points also go to Jane. You know, as far as the other alleged victim, she was a single mom. She met Diddy around 2020 when Diddy was single, when Jane was single, but Diddy was seeing other people. You know, Diddy introduced Jane to the freak offs, and she had tried one just to kind of make him happy, and then just kind of kept going into this repetitive cycle of doing these freak offs, wild hotel nights, that type of sort, just to kind of appease him. That Jane didn't want to do these freak offs, and that she had tried at even one point to hire men on her own that worked in the porn industry so she could pick the men. Diddy made her, these escorts not wear condoms when they, allegedly participated in these types of activities. So these were just kind of the big things that were pointed out as far as the government. And Jesse, do you want me to go into the defense? Because the defense was pretty interesting as well too.
Before you go into the defense, as I was reading about the reporting today, it was the first confirmation that Cassandra Ventura is victim one in this case. We always guessed it. We always surmised it. Now we have a definitive answer. And by the way, I think it was either the prosecution or the defense who mentioned that she's going to probably testify this week as we wonder who the first witnesses are going to be. And also this reference to Mia, who is Sean Combs' personal assistant, that is maybe going to provide some important testimony in this case. Now, before we go to the defense, real quick, as though you're looking at all these people that are behind you right now, Elizabeth, are these all reporters? Are these all fans? Are these all people who are supporting Sean Combs, who are not supporting Sean Combs? Are these just interested spectators? I'm trying to get a sense of the people that are walking behind you right now.
Yeah, so obviously I was trying not to pay attention so much because it's really so many people, but it's really just kind of a common mix. It's a lot of people who are here with the media. You have field producers, you have social media producers, and pretty much every outlet across the country is here right now inside that courtroom. I would say there's too many supporters beyond that one guy just kind of yelling, and he had been kind of saying some pretty vile things to us as reporters. So, we're trying too much not to pay attention to him as much as possible. As far as the family goes, right before we did this hit, we saw the family kind of get into a Sprinter van and kind of drive off, maybe to get something to eat, maybe to decompress, because, think about it, Jesse, his children were inside that courtroom, especially his daughters were inside that courtroom hearing about their father, booking escorts and allegedly beating women and that type of sort. So maybe it was just a time that all the family members just had to get out of here, get away from this media circus. But for the most part, it's a good mix of both media and just the general public who are just genuinely curious.
So Elizabeth, I know you have to jump back into that courtroom because they're going to start up in about 15 minutes. Real quick, if you could summarize the defense's opening statement, some highlights there.
Yeah, the defense's opening statements were pretty, we were kind of expecting them. They were going to have to admit that Diddy had been physically violent towards women in the past. They were going to have to admit that Diddy had this type of temper, that, he participated in taking these types of drugs, and that his temper was especially bad whenever he was on drugs and alcohol. There was a point in the openings where Diddy stood up when Tenny Garagos was introducing him to the jury. For the most part, even throughout opening statements, he kind of sat there calmly. He looked at the jurors. He looked at Tenny Garagos, who again provided the opening statements on the defense's behalf. The defense was kind of harping on the fact that the government has no place in his bedroom, something that we had talked about many of times, just how they're kind of painting this as somebody, who did bad things on one hand, but were these bad things criminal? And that was essentially what the defense's argument was there. They said that the defense will see domestic violence in this trial, but, while they do take it seriously, they say it's not sex trafficking. So I feel like they're trying to divide this line between, this being a domestic violence spat or domestic violence toxic relationship type of thing, as opposed to these being actual criminal acts that Diddy was allegedly committing and that type of thing. The defense was saying that these alleged victims were strong, capable women, that they made choices that were for adults, they were free of choice, and they came with both pros and cons, and that type of thing. And then they were kind of talking a lot about how Diddy was jealous and how, other partners or his other relationship partners. So for example, Cassie, they also mentioned Gina, somebody I talked about in some stories I had done. She had talked about how Diddy was physically violent with her in a podcast episode, for example. And so that was kind of her mention there beyond, what the government was talking about as far as, alleged victims in this case and that type of sort. They had mentioned Kim Porter and how Cassie was jealous of Kim Porter's relationship with Diddy and that type of thing. And then everything kind of ended as soon as Kim Porter had passed away. Cassie went to her memorial service, and that was the last time she had seen Diddy, even prior to her expectation that she'll be inside that courtroom testifying. These jurors are going to see some of these freak out videos, but they say that it was taken from Cassie's devices, not Diddy's devices. And so, they talked about Mia, for example, who had worked with Diddy for a number of years, and the defense says, they want jurors to evaluate her motive to testify. When they were talking about Jane Doe, it was the same thing, that this was a jealous relationship. Jane wanted to be more public, whereas Diddy, he wanted other relationships that weren't with Jane and that type of thing. So those were some of the biggest takeaways from the defense's openings, as well as the government's openings as well, too.
These are the arguments we anticipated. Now, obviously, there's a lot more detail to it. We're hearing it in an official capacity. And these jurors, while they might have heard certain aspects of this case, this is the first time, presumably, both arguments are being positioned to them for the first time in such a very particular way. And this is opening statements. It's not evidence, but it is the start, the official start of Sean Combs' criminal trial. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much for reporting. Go back into that courthouse. Stay safe out there. There's a lot of interesting characters you're seeing running around.
What are your opinions on all that, bro?
Sounds like a whole mess of bullshit going on, if you want my honest opinion. Um, she had a point when she said that the defense said that these were grown women who made the decision to get involved with Diddy after they figured out the first time if that's what he was doing to them. Uh, when they figured it out the first time, they had the chance to leave to get away from him, you know, flee the state or whatever, but they didn't. Whether he blackmailed them, I don't know. Whether they chose to stay with him, probably because of his status and his money, probably. But these females who are allegedly accusing him of doing these things to him also have to take a bit of self accountability in the fact that they chose to continue seeing him, going to his parties and whatnot. I don't know if these charges are like legit or if they're just fake ass allegations. Won't know more until the court proceeding continue further in and get into more detail, and we see what kind of proof is brought forward that he actually did these things. Forcing people to fuck escorts with no condoms on. I don't know. There's no proof of that. And at the end of the day, we won't know. We might not even ever know, because they might decide to keep this case details private. And at the end of the day, it's probably, if they do that, it's probably because they know it's some bullshit allegations. So, I think it's crazy. He's going through a lot right now. Anybody who's in his position would most definitely be stressing like a motherfucker. People were laughing and making fun of him whenever he made his first court appearance with all that gray hair. Y'all would be stressing like a bitch too if you were in his situation. And just imagine the amount of homosexual dudes who are out there wanting to see Diddy get sentenced. Did you see all the dudes that were corralled around the courthouse? Like, y'all ain't got nothing else better to do? Y'all want to go watch another man in court? Come on, bro. You can't make this shit up.
Yeah, man. And see, don't get it wrong. A victim is a victim, but nothing's been proven. It's all hearsay. And I don't like when women say they want to be treated as equals, but then in situations like this, I just didn't know. I loved him. I got manipulated. It's like when you start saying these childish ass things, it makes it seem like you're not an adult. You can't take no accountability, and that men are some sort of like magicians that did some sorcery. Bitch, you knew what it was. You was a part of it. Rumor has it that she was letting niggas pee in her mouth. So all I'm saying is she made music, which means she went on tour, which means there were moments she wasn't around Diddy, which means she could have got the fuck away. I think they was a freaky ass couple. Diddy was probably fucking around with men and women, and Cassie got jealous. Now, he whooped her. That is one thing that we can confirm, is he puts his hands on women. But that's not what they're trying him for. So what I'm sitting here and I'm saying to myself is, oh man, he whooped her ass, so he must fuck niggas and have parties. If that's the case, why y'all still rocking with Chris Brown, right? Because he whooped Rihanna, so what, we supposed to assume he eats dick and does all this shit now? Come on, man. And there's niggas sitting around, man, hey, man, I'll give you the spot outside the courtroom. We can't see Diddy, but you can stand outside the courtroom, and eventually you can see his kids come out. Niggas want to watch kids come out. You can see his mama come out. You might see this celebrity, that celebrity. This is what people are doing on a Monday fucking morning, the busiest day of the week. This is what niggas are deciding to do. And this is why I say, these are your mates.
No, they are not. Don't ever try to sit here and say that these homosexual fag fucks are my mates. Never in a million years. Those are your mates.
So with that being said, man, we're going to see where this trial goes, but I ain't finna be doing no, oh, girl, did you hear he did? I'm not doing none of that. Innocent until proven guilty. Believe all men until otherwise. Period, point blank. So with that being said, facts over feelings. And if you don't like that, fuck your thoughts. I'm Maki, and bitch you not. Any last words, Kane, before we let David Goggins send us on and you get to the Jimmo Wimmo?
Yeah, no, he said, stupid ass house monkeys, nincomb fucking poops, monkey minded, Apple century motherfuckers want to call me and tell me your opinion like anybody ever asked. So with that being said, make sure y'all share with your friends, your families, your mummies, your aunties, your grannies, and everybody else that y'all know. And we are out.
Being plus size is a choice.
You should learn to not be a dick to children!
Who cares?
Get off of Omegle and go think, why am I harassing children on the internet?
Who?
Why do I think it's okay to harass teenager? You!
Cares?
Life's too short to exercise. I'm just gonna be honest. There's so many better things to do than exercise. We have finite time on this earth. The exercise is such a conspiracy.
Most of the time we knew the start and end point. So on the way back, I started seeing people getting happy and shit because the end was near. But there were some asshole instructors that would hear the happiness and go right on past the end point. When that happened, everybody stopped talking. Heads would stop dropping. And I started taking fucking souls. At that time, I knew what happened in their minds. They were living off the hope factor. You start putting yourself in situations that suck, you'll find yourself. I was a fucking pathetic motherfucker, man. People cannot say that to themselves. We have to choose these great fucking magical words that make people feel good. Tell yourself the truth. And I started finding things that was comfortable. And the more things I found comfortable, the more uncomfortable my mind was. Because that voice I was telling you about, it always was there. Ranger instructor shouted out, "I want to bury you motherfuckers." So I saw that my squad needed some extra motivation. So I said, "Ain't no grave that can hold us down, motherfucker. Ain't no grave that can hold us down." I had two options. To either be that 300-pound guy who sprayed for cockroaches and made $1,000 a month, and at 24 years old, knowing when I'm 50 fucking years old, I can reflect on this and think about what guy I never became, or I can totally just sack it up and fail and fail and fail until I succeed. I wasn't born this motherfucker. I made him. At the bottom of insecurities, fear, self-doubt, lies, was me buried in the fucking fetal position. How I got out of that was recognizing it, being honest with it, being truthful with it, and then fixing it. We like to live on social media with lies about ourselves, how great we are. Get to the source and fix the problem. I'm not the best at anything. I'm not gifted. I'm just driven. They hoped the instructors would stop running. They hoped the water was never cold. They hoped the weather was fucking good. I don't live off that hope shit. I wish the water was cold. I wish them motherfucking instructors keep on fucking running. I wish the fucking rain. When the ending is unknown and the distance is unknown, that's when you know who the fuck you are. 14, come on. 15, shut that muscle down. 16, come on. Get it. 17. They don't know me, son. Get it. 18. They don't know me, son. Get it. 19. They don't know me, son. Yeah. 20, you got some more in you. 21, yeah, get it again. Come on, we want to see it. Good, 22. Who's going to carry the boats and the logs? That's you, buddy. Come on, 23. Come on, 24. One more, David. Who's one more to carry the boats? You're going to do it.